Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Sattva Smadhati Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Bhagavati Jaya Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jaya Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jaya Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giridhar Ki Jaya Vrindavan Dham Ki Jaya Navadvip Dham Ki Jaya Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Guru Dwarka Dham Ki Jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, all glories to their Sunnah. All glories to their Sunnah. Thank you very much. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, His Holiness JANANANDA Swami Maharaj, and all glories to some of the Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank you for being here. Today is another new week, and it is an honor that we have His Holiness with us today. Maharaj, thank you so much for making time with us, even though you have such busy schedule, that you managed to make time to be with us. We truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. So without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you may start speaking. All right.
Hold on. We're going to put the verse on the screen.
Yes, Maharaj.
Will we all chant it together, or how do we do it?
It depends. If you want us to chant together, we may do that. We usually don't do that because it creates echo, and
We can do, especially if someone leaves their sound on. Okay, well, but we
yeah,
won't do
but
that.
the
We'll
word
chant
is
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, then go into the verse. Is that the idea?
yes, it
Yeah.
is a good
Right.
idea. All right.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
And then after that, we talk a few words and take it from
Yes.
there. Okay, where are you actually right now, Saturday? Where are you located?
I am in Pennsylvania, US.
Where?
Specifically Harrisburg in Pennsylvania.
I thought you might be in Harrisburg. I was just in Philadelphia 2 days ago.
Oh, Maharaj,
Yeah,
that's very close.
yeah.
I
I'm in New
didn't know.
Jersey. I'm in
So
New
are you,
Jersey at the moment. I'm
are you
staying in-
still, oh, you were there for the wrath.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't be there.
No, I didn't see you there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on then.
So are you still in the States as we speak?
Yeah, we're in New York.
Oh, you are in New York.
Well,
Oh.
nearby. New, just across the water in New Jersey.
Yeah. Wow. Good to know. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
That's where the timing's easy because we're the same time.
Yeah, same time. Yes. Yes. We're very sorry we missed the association in Philly. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So we're waiting for the verse.
Yes.
Here it comes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 13, text number 13. 31313. Yesham natashto Bhagavan Yagyo Lingo Janardanaha Tesham Shamoya Pataya Yadatmana Dritak Swayam. Well, we can go straight on to the word for word, if you wish. Or I just chant it one more time if you want. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Yesham, of those with whom. Na, never. Tushtaha, satisfied. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Yagyalingaha, the form of sacrifice. Janardanaha, Lord Krishna, or the Vishnu Tattva. Tesham, of them. Shramaha, labor. He, certainly. Apartaya, without profit. Yat, because. Atma, the Supreme Soul. Na, not. Adritaha, respected. Svayam, his own self. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. And these, of course, this is being spoken, as far as correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is spoken by Lord Brahma. And he's speaking to his progeny, Swayambhuva Manu, as regards the duty of Swayambhuva Manu, or any Manu, come to that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, is the form to accept all the results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. Jivananda Prabhu? Do you think upstairs if you could bring down a third canto of Bhagavatam? So I've actually got the book as well. It's a little difficult like this. Brahma, purport. Brahma is deputed as the supreme head of universal affairs. And he is in his turn, deputes Manu and others as charge d'affaires of the material manifestation. But the whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's quite an interesting statement. The whole show is for the... It's making it like some kind of theatrical program. The whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least that's what it's meant for. Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord. And similarly, persons engaged in a line of Brahma's plan of activities also know how to satisfy the Lord. The Lord is satisfied by the process of devotional service, consisting of the ninefold process of hearing, chanting, etc. It is in one's own self-interest to execute prescribed devotional service, and anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. Everyone wants to satisfy his senses, but above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. Above the intelligence is the individual self. And above the individual self is the super self. Above even the super self is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu Tattva. That says super self, referring of course to the super soul and the localized form of Godhead, Paramatma. And Prabhupada says here above that is, of course, is the personality of Godhead in his eternal form in the spiritual realm. Here it says Vishnu Tattva, various forms of the Lord in Vaikuntha. The primeval Lord and the cause of all causes is Sri Krishna. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of Lord Krishna, who is known as Janardan. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for giving us your association this morning. I see some of you are on the road, driving your vehicles. Some of you are, I don't know where some of you are because only one or two have videos. But wherever you are, I hope we're all together and we're all remembering Krishna, focusing on Srimad Bhagavatam a little bit this morning. We'll try to speak a few words. I try to find a few references which at least will remind us of Srila Prabhupada, will remind us of, you could say, the subject matter of today's verse. A few things before we more or less get into the verse. In terms of the purport, I would say, let me just get back a little bit there. Interesting, there's some statements in the verse there, for instance, we see, he's not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. This is a statement which is probably, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you see recurring how people are wasting their time in various endeavors for sense gratification, economic development, and liberation even, and so on and so forth. They may perform sacrifices for these purposes. Sometimes they spend a lot of money. Prabhupada talks about that, how they waste their time performing gorgeous sacrifices, which are not really, neither they're performed correctly, neither they're recommended in this age, neither do they get the real result which they're searching for. And in today's verse, we see the real purpose of these sacrifices. Lord Janardan, in this particular verse, is emphasized that he is the Lord who accepts the sacrifice. It could be any. You could say ultimately, Prabhupada describes in the purport that ultimate is Krishna, who is the Bhaktaram Yagatapasam. He's the actual benefactor, the one who should receive all of the results of our work, our sacrifice. Everything should be done unto him, for him. Whatever one does in life, whatever sacrifices perform, whatever work we do, whatever charity we give, whatever it may be, should be done as an offering unto Krishna. We hear this in the Bhagavad Gita, of course. So that's Vaishnava's understanding. And Janardan, it's interesting how in the Bhagavad Gita we see so many times Srila Prabhupada, of course, comments on these verses, but in the first chapter particularly, how many times Arjuna addresses Krishna as Janardan. Prabhupada gives definitions of the meaning of Janardan. Interesting, we see almost conflictory statements as to the meaning of the name Janardan in terms of relationship with this world. Obviously, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in relationship with this world, it's a name which particularly refers to the maintainer of the devotees. It also refers to one who destroys the obstacles or destroys the demoniac, other than just the name of Krishna. Sometimes is a name which is also one who nourishes the devotees or brings. And we see the same thing maybe in the purpose of the Lord's appearance in this world, Paritanaya Sadanam, Vinashata, Duskitam, and so on. He comes for these purposes. In one sense, they're one and the same. So satisfying his devotees, destroying the enemies or the obstacles or the demons or whatever it is, they're different, but in one sense, they're one and the same, because satisfying the devotees, naturally, and destroying the demons in the sense of, is for the devotee, at least removing the obstacles on our path of devotion. We see also in this verse, he's the ultimate self. Therefore, one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. In the Bhagavatam, we often find, the statements even in the first canto, second chapter, Shrama Evi Kevalam, the activities a man performs according to his own particular position in the Varnashram are only so much useless labor if they don't satisfy the personality of Godhead. The famous verse in the second chapter of the first canto there, was that Dharma Svudhita Pungsam Vishvaksena Katasno Pariyadi Devating Shram Evi Kevalam. And all the activities which perform are meant atak pumbir dvijashveshta varnashrama vibhagashas vinusitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. They are meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever we do in life is meant to bring him pleasure. And this is, in one sense, the essence of this verse, is we're meant to bring pleasure to the Supreme. And as Prabhupada says in the purport of today's verse, I really like that sentence. The whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because they've always tried to make the show in that direction. And that's really what the material was for. And we're going to go on primarily in this effort to share with discussing the system, or not the system, but the subject matter of sacrifice. Because in the verse today, is that Janardan is the form to accept all the results of sacrifice. And it's sacrifice which really brings that show the right sacrifice. Obviously, there are sacrifices for the wrong cause, but the sacrifice, the real sacrifice, meant for the pleasure of the Lord. This is the essence, or let's say, the activity which makes the whole show satisfying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when we perform sacrifices for his pleasure. And we all, I presume everyone online is quite familiar with this subject matters, but we all know that by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like when we feed the stomach or we water the root of a tree, automatically the whole tree benefits, automatically the whole body is nourished when we perform that service to the root or to the stomach. So when we perform sacrifice for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's pleased, and naturally he pleases all of those who are performing the sacrifice. So that's the actual process being emphasized here. There are different types of sacrifices. And again, if he's not satisfied, then all of our activities are a waste of time. Probably our business is not to satisfy every single individual, but simply by satisfying Krishna. That's our purpose, not to get a certificate. One time Prabhupada said, our business is not to get a certificate from a group of asses, but to get a certificate from Krishna, that this jiva, this soul, has served me nicely like that. Mm-hmm. And this is the way that we get free from this chain, by understanding the Supreme Person. There's an interesting verse, and I'll read that verse. It's in the first canto, second chapter. It's kind of related to this in a sense. You might not catch it right away, but it is. It's number 21, 1-21. Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse when he arrived in America, in Boston. It was one of the series of verses there to explain his mission and the effects of this mission. So this verse 1-21, Vijates Vidaya Gantish Triyante Sarvasangshyaha Shiyante Chasya Karmani Drishta Evatmanishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced. We have this knot in our heart. Sacrifices are recommended in the Vedas, and they're meant to help to gradually, not to satisfy the knot, not to tie the knot, but to gradually release that knot. That's called karma granta, nibandanam. You hear the word hridaya granta, it's the knot in the heart. Karma granta nibandanam means the knot of material bondage. It's cut. Chindanti kovadas tasya kona kurt katavritim. It's cut by the process of remembering the personality of Godhead. That's the higher sacrifice. And then there are other sacrifices leading towards that, you could say. So this verse, the translation of that verse for the second chapter is of the first canto. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharma Prityaga Mami Kamashara Nambraja. We could use that same principle in this regard, that people are performing so many sacrifices for different reasons. Maybe we're also, to some extent, doing that in our efforts to become Krishna conscious, because sometimes we have other motives, other expectations, other requirements, other demands, whatever it may be, hopes. But they also are, in one sense, misgivings, unless they're pure. The real purpose of sacrifice is wholly and solely to please the Lord. It has no other motivation whatsoever, ultimately. When one comes to that point of remembering Krishna and understanding this principle through the practice of pure devotion, the chain of fruitive actions is terminated. In other words, one no longer performs any activity in this material world which causes a reaction. Almost even pious activities, they fall into the bracket of karma. There's karma, vikarma, and akarma. But under vikarma, most people are actually practicing vikarma. They take karma, but it's vikarma, it's sinful activity. Activity which is against the religious principles or against the Vedic scriptures. And then most people are basically vikarmis. Karmi is generally a materialistic person, but they're actually working according to the directions. They're working according to the directions of Vedas, following prescribed duties and so on, supposedly. Whereas vikarmis don't. They know or don't know, but they don't follow. So the akarma is activity which has no more. Both karma and vikarma have a result of karma in itself, Prabhupada says, means that activity which creates future material bodies. So our karma is that activity which doesn't create future material bodies, but it's transcendental to the actions and the actions of this world, because it's directed towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the proper sacrifice, the proper behavior, the proper understanding, and by that one can get freed from one's bondage within this material world. Now, this verse, thus the knot his heart is pierced. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated. It's a very interesting subject. When one sees oneself and one's master, and that's an unusual translation, which I just got straight from the Veda base this morning, and it's not the usual translation we hear. Usually when one sees oneself as master, here it says oneself and one's master. And another place, sometimes it's one of those interesting ones which perhaps can mean all of them, or perhaps it's not quite, fully, let's say, clarified. But when one sees oneself as master, it doesn't sound quite right. When one sees oneself and one's master, that makes sense. Or in another place, it's a capital self, referring to the Supreme as master. So whatever it is, it's understanding the existence of the self beyond and above. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes that, let me see, where's that verse now? Oh, this is in the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? There's a very interesting verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see if we can find it. Third chapter rather, excuse me. It'll be in the third chapter, I believe. I hope so. Third chapter, text number 42. Here it is. Prabhupada mentions this in the purport without referring to the verse, basically. Text number 42, Indriyani Paranyahura. Indriye Vipramanaha Manasastu Parabadhir Yo Budhe Paratastizaha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So in that sense, we can understand this verse from the Bhagavatam also, the self as master, because the soul is higher than all of the other, let's say, instruments, intelligence, mind, senses, sense objects, and so on. And the soul is higher, even higher than that, Prabhupada says, is the super self, and even higher than the super self is the Supreme Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality, Janardhan. he's higher than that. So it's a matter of different stages, different people are on different levels of involvement. Some are on a sensual platform, mental platform, intellectual platform. There's the false ego, but that's just basically when the higher self misidentifies their own existence. Instead of understanding their relationship with the super soul or the supreme person, they see themselves in relationship with the lower senses and mind, intelligence, and so on, material world. It's just a matter of perception. It is, of course, mentioned as in one sense, as an element, the false ego, or ahankara. But in another sense, it's just a matter of which direction the soul is perceiving. So either way, the soul is meant to be above all of these various and not controlled, meant to be the master of the mind, master of the intelligence, master of the senses, and so on. Supposed to be. And we've heard in the purport how that's just one level, but above that of the actual Supreme Personality of God. We're not here just to be a master of the mind and senses, but a performance of devotional service, full mantra yoga, vicharya, bhakti yoga, and sevate. Naturally, one who doesn't fall down in the execution of devotional service transcends the modes of nature and comes to the level of Brahman. So the soul who's actually above the or acting fully in devotional service, automatically one's senses are controlled. One doesn't have to make a separate endeavor. Rishikesh Bhakti Seva Uchate. When one's senses are engaged fully in the service of Rishikesh, there's no question them being engaged in the objects of the senses, with the mind being controlled by the senses, which are focused on the objects of senses, and the intelligence just, let's say, organizing the mind in a way to try to fulfill the sensual desires which the conditioned soul has. And the soul being really like a passenger, also described in the Bhagavad Gita, how the soul is like a passenger on the chariot of this body, and the mind are like the reins, the intelligence is supposed to be the driver. Like that, the living entity is being driven, the senses of the horses going all over the place, which is basically the situation of a conditioned soul, whichever mode of nature he's in. So the process of devotional service is not just about controlling the mind and senses and so on, but it also cuts the repetitive knot of birth and death, it's Hridaya Gunti, in the heart, so that one no longer has to take birth in this material world anymore. Akama Sava Kama Moksha Kama Tirena Bhakti Yogena. One is engaged in Tirena Bhakti Yogena, or this very, very strong, unalloyed devotion, you could say, fixed devotion, undisturbed devotion, is no longer subjected. Ayar Harati Vaipong Sam, another nice verse in the second canto, where Sukadeva Goswami describes how the rising and setting of the sun, reduced the life of everyone except for those engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They're not, because they're living on a different plane. The body may deteriorate, no doubt about that. But the soul is not under the influence of the material modes. So he's above it. Though it's not affected by these changes that take place in the material plane, whether they're on the physical, mental, or intellectual platforms. Everyone else is, and therefore everyone else is kind of like, most people are, if they're at all pious, they're performing some kind of pious activity, some kind of religious activity, some kind of sacrifice of some kind, some humanitarian work, charity work, and so on and so forth. And they may have their part to play, and if they're guided under the Vedic directions, then they can help to gradually both fulfill the living entity's material aspirations, up to a point at least, as well as helping the living entity to ultimately get freed from this knot, this karma granta, this bondage of material life which everyone's under. And the administration of the universe is meant to manifold. It's not just like a prison house only, which we sometimes, of course, it's regularly described as, but it's also a facility where people can perform sacrifice. The Vedic literatures are specifically there. All scriptures are there, to some degree at least, to facilitate this purpose, to help the human beings, the living entities who come to the human body, perform sacrifice, authorized sacrifice, not speculative one. Non-devotees, they perform speculative austerities. They may fast for political reasons or for yogic reasons or something or another. mystic powers of some kind or whatever concoctions they have on their mind. But no, following the Vedic principle of sacrifice as given by the Supreme Personality of God. There are many types of sacrifices. You can read them in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter. Many are mentioned, authorized sacrifices. Also in the 4th chapter, we hear Chaturvanya Maya Shristam Gunakarma Vibhagasha and so on. Different types of sacrifices are there within the realm of the material energy, but they're meant to actually bring people to the point of becoming freed from this bondage in the material world, realizing we have no business in this material world. Our business is to please Krishna. And that's what it's for. So when Krishna sees people performing sacrifices according to the Vedic principles, or the Karalas or the Vedas, then he's pleased. He's pleased by sacrifice. Even it may not be the highest sacrifice. We know highest sacrifice, of course, is devotional service to Krishna, unalloyed pure devotion, which is basically what we're trying to both practice, facilitate, and propagate for the sake of, pleasing Krishna is the number one purpose, and the secondary purpose is to release everyone from the material world. So the devotee performs these sacrifices, the Sankirtan Yogya being the Yogya Sankirtan prayer, Yujantihi Sumedasa, has been the primary sacrifice recommended for everyone in all ages, but particularly in this age of Kali, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sangopangastapasham, Yogya Sankirtan prayer, Yujantihi Sumedasa. The Yogya for Kali Yuga is particularly intelligent persons, not just Kali Yuga, it's a Bhagavatam statement. But intelligent persons in this age of Kali will worship the Supreme Personality of God, who is accompanied by his devotees by the performance of Sankirtan Yogya. That's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to engage everyone else in this performance of Yogya. Let's see where we'll go now. We could mention a few verses from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. If we go to the 4th chapter, the Bhagavad Gita, text number 25, there Krishna says, factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord. This is Prabhupada's purport, not Krishna's words, by the way. Factually, the purport Prabhupada writes this. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is also known as Yogya. It's the name of the Lord. Sacrifice, Yogya by Vishnu. All sacrifices are meant for the pleasure of Vishnu. All the different varieties of sacrifices can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Sacrifice of worldly possession means giving the fruits of one's work to Krishna and so on and so forth. Offering those worldly possessions in the service of the Lord, and the pursuit of transcendental knowledge is basically speaking the execution of devotional service. As in the 4th chapter Bhagavad Gita, where this verse comes from, after a while Prabhupada writes, if these various sacrifices do not lead to transcendence or to devotional service to Krishna, they're merely material activity, which will keep or will not release us from this material, even though they're recommended by the Vedas. One has to see the link of these Vedic literatures with the Supreme, and in one sense that's why we understand the Bhagavatam is written, because Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedas and Puranas and what have you, but it hadn't sufficiently made this bridge between everything and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narada Muni chastised Vyasa for making it in such a way, composing all these literatures in such a way that people could well get the impression that liberation or elevation to heavenly planets is the objective goal rather than pure devotion. So then he thought kind of nothing's forced, but then he told him he should compile the Bhagavatam basically as we have it, Srimad Bhagavatam, to make it possible for people to understand the purpose behind everything. The purpose behind all the Vedic literatures is to know the personality of Godhead. The purpose of the Vedas is not just material. And right in the beginning, Krishna says to Arjuna, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Vavajuna. Rise above these. The Vedas mainly deal with the three modes of nature. Rise above these, Arjuna, be transcendental. So that's the objective of the Bhagavad Gita, is to ultimately to give up all of these other aspirations, all these other practices, sacrifice everything to him, even our thoughts, not just their possessions. We see Atmani Veda, and sometimes we understand Atmani Veda according to Bali Maharaj as one who's given everything to the Lord. He gave all his possessions, but and we understand he gave himself as well. But when we just take it to be his so-called possessions and his so-called body, then that's not exactly what is the ultimate form of sacrifice, because the sacrifice of one's self-surrender within the heart, that we accept ourselves as belonging to Krishna. We only exist for Krishna's pleasure. It's not a matter of thinking something's mine, therefore I'll sacrifice that for the Lord. And that's a good start. That's a good stage, a very advanced stage. But it's not the stage of a pure devotee of the Lord, exactly. He never has anything in the beginning, just like when the Kumaras came to Prithu Maharaj said to the Kumaras that, because naturally he was in the role of a king, although he's a partial expansion of the personality of Godhead, he was playing the role of a king. And the Kumaras being, eternal associates also, but they're playing the role of small Brahmin boys. And when they came to him, we visited him in his kingdom, naturally, as the duty of a king, it's naturally the duty of grihasthas to give charity to Brahmins, to sadhus, to sannyasis, and so on. So he said, I would like to offer you sacrifice. I'd like to offer you some charity, but actually I have nothing to offer, because in reality everything belongs to you, because you are the representative of Krishna. So I have nothing anyway. This could be seen as a good excuse not to give anything, but he didn't mean it like that. He just meant to say, actually, you were very kind. You, in a sense, you have more important things to do than manage this world. That's our business. Swayambhuva, Manu, Prithu Maharaj, the kings, the administrators of the universe, that's their business. And the Brahmins leave it to them to do. Just like Prabhupada says, nowadays it's maybe a little different. We don't have money, and everything's on the net. But we put our money in the bank, and the bank looks after it on our behalf, but the money is yours, and it used to be. It's not so easy like that now, but it used to be. The bank used to recognize that this is your money, not ours. But nowadays, I don't know if they recognize that anymore. Some places maybe, but that's the idea anyway. That the Brahmins are too busy pursuing transcendental knowledge. They don't have time to deal with all these other activities. But they facilitate the sacrifices for everyone else to help people to give up their worldly possessions by performing sacrifices for the pleasure of Vishnu. Yagavai Vishnu, for his pleasure. We see that with Prithu Maharaj, we see that with Ambarish Maharaj, with many great kings, although they themselves are actually above the need to perform these mundane sacrifices, karma kandya sacrifices, and so on. They're above it, but they still perform them. Ambarish Maharaj was performing yagas in the deserts all over the place to try to bring auspiciousness. But they do these things also. King Prachini Barishat, so many of them. He's a little bit entangled, but they perform these sacrifices. They follow the right principles. They follow the Vedic principles. They don't just concoct. They follow the Vedic principles, and they perform these sacrifices accordingly for the upliftment of the society. These sacrifices, when properly performed, benefit everyone, including the animals, the birds, the beasts, even the vegetation. Everyone gets some benefit from it. Spiritual benefit. They may get their material returns also, if that's what they want. But they'll also simultaneously, because Prabhupada says that the Lord Vishnu is always there in all kinds of sacrifice. We'll read that a little later, so we won't go down there. But everybody benefits from this. Everyone benefits. Okay, so we'll move on a little bit here. We'll go to the next verse, which is the text number 25 in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. 25? No, we read that purple. Text number 31 in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says to Arjuna in English, didn't say it in English, but we'll say it in English, O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. Then what to speak of the next? Without this sacrifice. Everyone makes some sacrifice. Going to school is a sacrifice, although it's in the modes of nature. It's still a sacrifice. Working is a sacrifice. Maintaining a family is a sacrifice. Everything. You see sacrifice everywhere. And you get some degree of happiness from those type of sacrifices, but obviously it's mixed with suffering, karma, and so on involved. But when we perform sacrifice for Lord Vishnu, as we look now, we'll go to the third chapter now of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very important section of the Bhagavad Gita. Let me see, I think it starts with verse 10. Here we are. Text 10. Very much quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada. Saha yaga pajasvishtva purovacha pajapatihi anena don't know it off by heart. Anena prasavishyadvam eshavostvishta kamaduk. Kamaduk, the bestower. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu. In a sense, this pastime that we're reading in the third canto today's verse in the Bhagavatam, where Lord Brahma is talking to Manu, Swambhu Manu, how to populate the universe. It wasn't populated sufficiently, even though Brahma had, created all kinds of sages and so on and so forth. The universe wasn't getting sufficiently populated, so he's requesting Swambhu Manu to get going and activate this more. Along with sacrifices for Vishnu. So the secret here is to perform these sacrifices. Sacrifices are also there to produce good progeny, so that we don't just get cats and dogs, human beings by basically living like cats and dogs, trying to fulfill materialistic or animalistic propensities only. That's not the goal of sacrifice, but it's to produce or to facilitate the evolvement of the consciousness of the living entity to the spiritual plane. And then he blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yogya sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. We could read a bit of the purport, maybe we will. Okay, let's see down here. Yeah, this is about the second paragraph, I guess. It's quoting a verse in the second canto, Shreya Patir, Yogipati, Prajapati, and so on, how the Lord of Sacrifice and so on. The Prajapati is Lord Vishnu, and he is the Lord of all living creatures. Another name of Janardana in one sense. All worlds and all beauties, and the protector of everyone. The Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yoga. And that's another interesting reason for the universal creation. It's not just to facilitate the errant desires of the living entity, keep them out of the way, put them in some kind of prison house. It's not some kind of a movie which the Lord likes to watch. No, he's created this universe to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yoga for the satisfaction of Vishnu, so that while in the material world they can live very comfortably without anxiety, and after finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. That is the whole program for the conditioned soul. It's pretty much a summation of what it's all about, what it's for, what type of yoga is another thing, but they have to be authorized according to the Vedic principles, according to authority, not just our own idea of what we think it should be. That's the God. That's why we're here in the first place. We want to do things our way. So yoga means transforming that tendency to do things our way. We may mix that in the beginning, but ultimately to do things the way that pleases Krishna. And that's why we exist, basically, for the pleasure of the Lord. The jiva's real purpose is to bring pleasure to the Lord. The conditioned souls then gradually become Krishna conscious and become godly in all respects. In the age of Kali, the Sankirtan Yagya, the chanting of the holy names of God, is recommended by the Vedic scriptures, and this transcendental system was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men in this age. Sankirtan Yagya and Krishna consciousness go well together. And we've already mentioned that verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Krishna Varnam. We won't read that again. Other yogas prescribed in the Vedic literatures are not easy to perform in this age of Kali. But the Sankirtan Yoga is easy and sublime for all purposes, as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 9:14. I guess that's Satatam Kirkyanto Mam. I don't know, let's just quickly check that one. Yeah, it is. I hope I'm straight to it. Amazing. Satatam Ketiyanto Mam Yatantascha Dudavataha Namasyantascha Mam Bhaktya Nityayukta Upasate. Always chanting my glory, as Krishna says, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. They've come to that platform, that spiritual platform, realizing by the performance of various yogas, maybe for lifetimes, and have come to this highest point now of understanding the whole purpose of all yogas is not just to satisfy the body, mind, intellect, not even to satisfy the soul or even the super soul, but to satisfy the Supreme Personality of God, who is the master of everything. Everything emanates from him. In this particular, where are we now? Verse which we just read in the 3rd chapter, text number 10, is also an interesting scenario. In different places, Prabhupada describes in this particular verse, when the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations, it doesn't define it, but yes, it does in the purport. The material creation by the Lord of creatures, Vishnu, is a chance offered to the conditioned souls to come back home, back to Godhead. Elsewhere we see probably that this Lord of the creation is Lord Brahma. He's the one who's providing or let's say manifesting all the creatures and giving the sacrifices we see in these verses being spoken to Manu. He's giving him this advice. So again, either way, it could be addressed to Vishnu or Lord Brahma. It's not made absolutely clear here. But mostly Prabhupada refers to it's Lord Brahma, who this verse is referring to in detail at least. If we read the next verse, text number 11 of the 3rd chapter, I'm probably leaving some of you behind here, but anyway, try to listen. The demigods being pleased by sacrifice will also please you. Interesting, it's also inclusive. It's not just exclusive here, it's inclusive. These sacrifices of the demigods are recommended, even though they're considered less intelligent or on a lower level. Nonetheless, they have their part to play. They're recommended in the Vedas. The demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. There's no time to read the purport, so comment. Next verse, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods, in return, is certainly a thief. People want to have some results, and in India there are many sort of pious people. They still have some understanding of this. They worship the various demigods for this thing and that thing. Even in Krishna Lila, we find that the residents of Braj, Nanda Maharaj, and the Brajbasis, they were intending to worship Lord Indra for rain, for instance. And that's the famous verse we just read, or we're just about to read. We just read it. In charge of the various necessity of life, the demigods being satisfied by the performance of yoga will supply all necessities, including the rain. We need rain to get grains. The devotees of the Lord are released, next verse, from all kinds of sins. Other types of yogas may gradually elevate, you could say, one to acting in the mode of goodness, but the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Devotees don't just offer their sacrifices to the demigods. We offer our food and everything else come to that, to Lord Krishna. And in this way one becomes completely freed of all reaction, or to speak of sinful reaction, even good reaction from the material perspective, everything. Free from everything. Most people just want to get free from sinful reactions. But the devotee gets free from all reactions, for both pious and impious activities. This is the nature of devotion. We may come to that verse later. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. This is the famous verse. Hari Sori Prabhupada told us that Prabhupada would often chant this before prasadam. Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadana sambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhavaha. All living beings subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice. And yogi is born of prescribed duties. There's a lot mentioned here. Just give me a second. There's a noise in the background. Subal? Subal? Sudevi? Sorry. There's a loud noise in the background. Can it be nullified? It's just started. We may just have to tolerate it, but it is a little bit disturbing what to do. Tolerate without being disturbed. All living beings subsist on food grains. Is it the washing machine, I think? Is it something else? All living beings subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. There's an amazing connection here between yajna and prescribed duties. As we heard earlier on, one type of sacrifice recommended in the 4th chapter is varnashram, prescribed duties. Again, these are not concocted or created by the fertile brain of conditioned souls. They're God-given system, Chaturvanya Maya system. It's given by the Supreme Lord. And part of the whole Vedic society is to ascertain the particulars, like we see in Isha Upanishad, Ishavashamidam sarvam yatincha jagatyam jagatena chaptena bunjitiham agudikashasvidanam. That this is the society, the God-centered society, where people learn what is their quota. Their quota is not just so many chapatis that may be taken into account, but it's actually understanding our nature and acting accordingly and not trying to imitate that. The whole Bhagavad Gita is practically based on this, as a misunderstanding. Arjuna was trying to avoid his prescribed duty as a Kshatriya, and how much in the whole 3rd canto is rebuffing that, which is basically about performing the proper sacrifice or performing the proper prescribed duty. And that was what pleases Krishna and will result in benefits for others. Otherwise, you're performing a sin. If one doesn't perform one's prescribed duty, at least in human culture, one is committing a sin. Most people don't know what their prescribed duty is. We become so degraded. We become so disconnected with this system, whether the Varnashram system or the Vedic system, the Vedic culture. We become so disconnected. And it's like a hodgepodge. I was talking to some young devotee at Rathayatra in Philadelphia the other day. He's actually a life coach. And I was just talking to him about various things. He was very inquisitive. And that was one of the things he said. It's so confusing nowadays. People don't know who they are. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They change from one thing to the next, just like the drop of a hat, as we used to say, just on the spot. They're a lawyer 1 week, and then they decide, no, I don't want to be a lawyer. I'm going to try to be a doctor. Oh, I think I'll try to be a plumber. It's like they go from one thing to the other like crazy sometimes. They have no idea what they're doing. And there's no guidance either. It's a society which is like well, devoid of proper guidance. The Brahminical head is just not there. It's just based on money, some Vaishya principles and work principles. There's nothing much else involved there. There's no proper leadership, either executive or spiritual. It's a helpless position people are in, practically speaking. They're performing sacrifices. The sacrifices leads to misery instead of suffering, because they're in the mode of ignorance. And sacrifice performed in the mode of ignorance you may get some sort of so-called shadow pleasure out of it, but actually it's misery. The sacrifice performed in the mode of passion sometimes is there, may be very joyful and immediately, you may get some immediate results, but ultimately it turns to misery too. There's no guidance, there's no proper guidance or goodness so that the sacrifices actually may be a little tough in the beginning, but they lead to full satisfaction in the long run. And if you're on the real sacrifice of Sankirtan Yajna or transcendental Yajna, that leads to liberation entirely, not just satisfaction within this material framework, but spiritually, eternally beneficial. So performing one's prescribed duty is a foundation. There's not really, you can perform the Sankirtan Yajna. This is the saving grace for Kali Yuga is the Kaler Doshanadeva Janasti Heku Mahagula Kirtanadeva Krishna Mukta Sangha Param Bhujatan. This is the real saving grace in Kali Yuga. There's no other grace. The Kali Yuga, Kaler Doshanadeva Jana, O King, this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. So I mean, we're literally living in an ocean of faults. Don't expect anything other than that. The material world is an ocean of faults. We get very upset when things don't go the way we want or people behave in crazy ways, but we should be very surprised if they don't, because that's the nature of Kali Yuga. There's so many trials and tribulations. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said this material world means, constant and trials, tribulations, no end of it. Disturbances. That's the nature of this age. So don't be surprised when these things happen within and without, or a lot of the time, at least we perceive it like that. Part of this age, so we have to try to take shelter of the counteracting, the remedy, the only remedy for counteracting iti chodashakam nanam kali kalmashanashanam, these ill effects of Kali Yuga, the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna. This is the only means, these 16 words, to counteract the ill effects of this age of Kali. So we take shelter when things are always out of place. We may not always recognize it in this age, but they are. We should, when they are clear to us that they are, then this is a great incentive to take shelter of the holy name. We shouldn't get, panicky or fearful or disturbed. But rather take shelter of the holy name. Take shelter. Just like our Indra Swami just now, he was, in somewhere in the Eastern Bloc, so to speak, the ex-Eastern Bloc there, and he got arrested and was told to get out, and gave him a little fine or something. And he was in prison for a few days, but he was just relishing in the memories. And of course, he was very sad not to be with the other devotees in the festival, but he was relishing, remembering Haridas Thakur and his in being in prison, chanting the holy names and so on and so forth. Every situation a devotee performs sacrifice, no matter what it is, not just when we come to the temple or on certain festive occasions, but at every moment the devotee performs sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna. We're going to the next verse in the 3rd chapter. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So that's how it works, because the Lord, being transcendence personified, gives various activities coming from Him. They're transcendental, coming from Him. They may be, let's say, in contact with the material energy, with living energy or condition, but they're all to elevate the living entity if we perform according to our prescribed duties, regulative activities, sacrifices for the pleasure of Vishnu, and by associating with those authorized transcendental prescribed duties, one becomes purified gradually, not quickly. Next verse, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow the human life, does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. So that's the vikarmi, a life full of sin. If one follows the Vedas, one may still have so many mature desires, but it will gradually purify. So those who don't follow, they live only for the satisfaction of the senses. Such a person lives in vain, a waste of time, whatever they do. So there's just a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna speaks in the 3rd chapter. We could read many more, but we'll leave it at that from the Bhagavad Gita, at least. In regards to today's verse, the Lord of sacrifice, transcending the modes of nature, understanding the purpose of life, the Supreme Person, and so on and so forth. We go to a few verses in the Bhagavad Gita. We've already mentioned this one. We won't touch that again. And this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We go to Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 21, text number 34. For material prosperity, there are recommendations in the Vedas for various types of yoga. This is the purport, by the way. or sacrifice. In Bhagavad Gita it is confirmed that Lord Brahma created all living entities. This is the comment by Prabhupada. Prabhupada's purport. Here he says it's Lord Brahma. In Bhagavad Gita 3:10 it is confirmed that Lord Brahma created all living entities, including human beings and demigods, and advised them to perform yajna according to their material desires. Sahayagya praja srishtva. These performances are called yajnas because their ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. The purpose of performing yajnas is to get material benefit, but because the aim is to simultaneously satisfy the Supreme Lord, such yajnas have been recommended in the Vedas. Such performances are, of course, known as karmakanda, or material activities, and all material activities are certainly contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Generally, the karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies are performed in the mode of passion, yet the conditions solved, both human beings and demigods are obliged to perform these yajnas because without them one cannot be happy at all. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that these karmakanda ritualistic ceremonies, although contaminated, contain touches of devotional service, because whenever there is a performance of any yajna, Lord Vishnu is given a central position. This is very important because even a little endeavor to please Lord Vishnu is bhakti and is of great value. A tinge of bhakti purifies the material nature of the performances, which by devotional service gradually come to the transcendental position. This ninefold, and then Prabhupada goes on. I didn't note the whole purport, but later on in the purport, Prabhupada goes on to explain this real yajna, which is recommended in human society of, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, and so on. That this ninefold process is described in this verse as Vishuddha Vijnana Ganaha, or satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly by transcendental knowledge concentrated on the form of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So that's the other form of yajna for transcendental knowledge. When we follow these ninefold processes of devotional service recommended in the Shastras, that's the pursuit of transcendental knowledge and not just something else, some karmakanda objective of some kind. This is the best method for satisfying the Supreme Lord. One who cannot take to this direct process, however, should take the indirect process by performing yajnas for the satisfaction of Vishnu or yajna. Vishnu is therefore called Yajapati, Shriyapatim, Yagapatim, Jagapatim. The Supreme Personality of God has deep scientific knowledge, is concentrated on this supreme point. Interesting. Everything's concentrated there, contained there within. This knowledge, this scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Everything's contained within that. Let's see, we'll read another purport of Prabhupada here, 9th Canto, chapter 14, text 47, a little bit of the purport. Some kind of yajna must be performed to fulfill the desires of the living entity. Yajnas can be performed in human society only when society is divided by Varna Ashram Dharma into 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. Without such a regulated process, no one can perform yajnas. And without the performance of yajnas, no material plans can make human society happy at any time. Pretty strong statement of Prabhupada there. That's why Prabhupada, because he says different things, we all know that, it's quite not an easy one, emphasizes the need to establish some degree at least of Varnashram Dharma into society, because these yajnas can't be performed. And then we go back to the point mentioned earlier, that in this age it's not possible practically to perform all these other types of yajnas, at least not very effectively. Therefore, the Sankirtan yajna is the only saving grace. Everyone should therefore be induced to perform yajnas. In this age of Kali, the yajna recommended is Sankirtan, the individual or collective chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This will bring the fulfillment of all necessities for human society. And we'll just read another purport of Srila Prabhupada from the 3rd Canto, chapter 20, text 51. The importance of sacrifice is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter. We've read that. The Lord confirms there that in the beginning of creation, Brahma created the Manus along with a ritualistic sacrificial method and blessed them. Continue these sacrificial rites, and you will be gradually elevated to your proper position of self-realization and will also enjoy material happiness. So again, confirmed it's Lord Brahma. All the living entities created by Brahma are conditioned souls and are inclined to lord it over material nature. The purpose of sacrificial rituals is to revive gradually the spiritual realization of the living entities. That is the beginning of life within this universe. These sacrificial rituals, however, are intended to please the Supreme Lord. Unless one pleases the Supreme Lord, or unless one is Krishna conscious, one cannot be happy either in material enjoyment or in spiritual realization. And I'll just finish off here with a very beautiful prayer, I suppose you could say it. This is found, and unfortunately many of the verses in the Pancha Pradeep do not give their original references, so I don't know what the original reference is, but it's quoted in the ISKCON GBC Deity Worship Manual. Eti vidyat poyonir ayonir Vishnu iritaha Vagyagena chito deva priyatam me janardanaha. May Lord Janardan, the unborn, Lord Vishnu, the cause of all knowledge and austerity, who is now being worshipped by this sacrifice of words, be pleased with me. I'll just read that English again. May Lord Janardan, the unborn Lord Vishnu, the cause of all knowledge and austerity, who has now been worshipped by the sacrifice of words, be pleased with me. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, we'll finish there. If anyone would like to ask any questions, you are most welcome.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Sadhya? Oh, okay.
Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask, you indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to ask your question or share your reflections. Keshav Prabhu, do you have something to ask, please?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria Sadhya Prabhu. Maharaj, thank you very much for your class. I appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Very well. Hi, Keshav Prabhu. Where are you?
I'm in Ghana.
Ghana?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. I got married to a Danish Harikish disciple, and then she took initiation from Radhanath Maharaj. And then we got married in the Nairobi temple about 3 years ago. And we were in Mombasa, Kenya for a year, and then we moved here. This is our second trip to Ghana. So we're doing okay now. We're trying to do some book distribution.
Oh, congratulations. You're just visiting Ghana. You're based in Nairobi, are you?
No, we gave up on that. No, my wife and I both have a 3-year residence work permit for Ghana.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we just returned here about a month ago.
Ghana or Ghana? Ghana.
Accra.
Ghana.
Yeah.
Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana.
Ghana. It's
Ghana,
a wonderful place.
West Africa.
Divya Gyan. You were bringing Divya Gyan to Gyan.
The people are so favorable and receptive. It's unbelievable. Everybody believes in God. It's wonderful, you know.
I know.
But
I know a lot of Ghanese people.
Yeah, we have a lot in Canada too. Maharaj, in Ghana, you know, there's a lot of credibility, I guess, given to these yagyas. And like for New Year's, 31st of December, there's always a big yagya in the temple room and different things. So
amongst the devotees, you mean?
Yeah, and also the public participates in this. They're given a chance to throw their grains into the fire and utter their prayers. And you know, a lot of emphasis on following Nirjala Ekadasi and Chaturmasya and all these different things.
Pretty serious over there.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's doing that anymore. Following Chaturmasya, you're joking.
No, they follow that here.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, sad but true, yeah. Maharaj, in this yoga, you know, what benefit does one stand to gain by conducting these, you know, elaborate sacrifices?
Well, my take on that, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know when did you join the Srila Prabhupada's family?
86.
86. Yeah. You came in this sort of one of the
Mm.
earlier waves, but not the very early waves. The very early waves. They didn't really have
zoned.
any of these, let's say, flowery arrangements much. You know, it's pretty simple. Even Kartik is just about round the corner, I think in 8 days or so, a week or something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, not long away anyway. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's become a huge thing in ISKCON, and there's nothing wrong with that. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's not. But we did. I mean, it was there during Prabhupada's time. But Prabhupada, the only thing that we received, I mean, we said different things to different devotees, but as a general rule, the only difference in Kartik was that in the evening we get together if you weren't busy doing something else, and we sing the Damodarastakam. There was nothing
Ah,
else
yeah, yeah, okay.
whatsoever involved.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would go to India.
Mm-hmm.
No, nobody went to Vrindavan. Everyone just carried on as norm. We
Mm-hmm.
all went to India in Gopanim if you were going at all, you know, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what Prabhupada established. Now there's
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I go for Kartik quite often too, and it's not like there's anything wrong in that, no question of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's like it's not something that Prabhupada put a great emphasis on. We know he wrote about it in the Nectar Devotion and other places, and simply quoting our acharyas, Rupa Goswami and others. But he didn't place an awful lot on it. He really placed a lot of emphasis on, well, obviously we know what he placed a lot of emphasis on, the books, the chanting of
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna, the distribution of prasadam. That was one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest yogas, was prasad distribution. So I
Mm-hmm.
see these things as is a we have some degree of bridge preaching. We would do incense and then give people books or, you know, different things. I mean, Prabhupada was very lenient in the beginning with many things, of course, when it first came. We could call it variations of bridge preaching, if that's the word you use these days. So they're kind of bridge preaching, and I see it's very good. And I know I can understand one of the reasons, which again is perhaps not always followed now, is when we have these yagyas all the time. There's a verse in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam, I don't know if you're familiar with mantra tastantastidam dea kalarvastita. It's spoken by Shukracharya. Now, generally, we don't quote Shukracharya very much in terms of, you know, let's say the positivity, but this is one verse which is very famous. Where Lord Vishnu had asked him what was Bali Maharaj's fault, and he said he didn't have any fault, actually. All this is arranged by you, my Lord. Because he didn't have any fault, because Mantra that even if there is fault in the performance of the sacrifice, in the performance of the yagyas, nonetheless, Anusankirtanam Tava, your names are being chanted, my Lord. Therefore, everything becomes nischidram, faultless. So, you know, it's a very interesting meditation. Now, I can see that when Prabhupada, all the time I remember, as clearly as I can remember, that all the yogas, whether they're initiation, marriages, which is, I don't know if we performed any other kinds of yogas in those days. I don't think we did in terms of those type of sacrifices, were always accompanied by kirtan throughout the whole ceremony. Throughout the whole ceremony. And Jiva
Mm-hmm.
Goswami mentions this, that all the activities we do in devotional service should always be accompanied with the chanting of the holy name. Especially when we do these type of things like Christmas, New Year's Eve festivities, parties for the kids, or whatever it is that you do, they have their part to play. We know if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you'll see he places importance on these various, you know, social events. But they should always have, as Prabhupada mentioned earlier on, we read it, the tinge that Vishnu is present there. He is takes the primary position. Therefore, there's a tinge of bhakti there. Of course, we want more than a tinge. We want a lot, but you know, but that should always be there. Even if there's like now we have sacrifices for new cars,
Yeah,
sacrifices this,
yeah.
that. My God, there's no end to it. New mobile
Yes.
phones. There's no limit to it all. You know, I don't know what's going to come to next. New false teeth. You know, new false teeth.
Oh
Everything. You
boy.
know? I don't know where it's going to. You know, it's like creating all
Oh
kinds
boy.
of things. So
Oh
I don't
boy.
think we should overly encourage these things, but people do it. So at least we can try to bring Krishna consciousness clearly in the forefront, that the purpose is not just to, you know, bless your new car. It's to become Krishna conscious, you know. The car
Mm-hmm.
is useless if it doesn't help us become Krishna conscious. You know, all these things are useless if they don't help. So, you know, people need them. They're on that platform of sentiment, that platform of material kind of identification. So if we can somehow or other bring more and more pure devotion into these factors, into these situations, and I don't know if you can stop them in your own arena, no doubt about that. People may not be very happy about it. But our mission is to try to connect everyone to Krishna, so somehow or another, to spiritualize all these various mundanities, or these sentiments, these customs, and what have you. It's kind of bridge preaching. The details you can't really get into in the form of a conversation like this, which is good, which is not, how much, how little. But the principle is to try to spiritualize everything. Your family life, we try to spiritualize education, we try to spiritualize everything. Yes. Whatever it is in life,
Yeah,
we try to see it spirit. Some or another try to bring
because
some spirituality.
mysticism plays such a big role here, you know, in West
Of
Africa.
course, yeah. I mean, I've not lived in Ghana. I've lived in Uganda. I've lived in
Yeah,
Kenya.
I
I've
remember you
lived
told
in
me that.
Malaysia. I've lived in Indonesia. I've lived in Philippines. All these places have
Hmm.
various degrees of, voodoos and this and that and so on and so forth. Black magic. I mean, is there many devotees still kind of, you could say to some degree or another, they are, kind of still conditioned by these things, you know? I
Kavi
had,
Karnapur was just telling me how much you appreciate in Philippines when we
oh,
spoke the
yeah,
other day.
well,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a
yeah.
sweet guy. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
really sweet.
he came to Mombasa a couple of years ago when we were there.
Did
Yeah,
he?
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a Ghana boy. Well, no, he's a
Nigerian.
Nigerian,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he
but
sure is. Yeah.
similar thing. Yeah, I'd love to come and visit you guys down there. But yeah, all these things are there. Yeah, we had a brahmachari convention in London about a month or two ago, and I just did a few sessions with brahmacharis, different sannyasis were there, and like a European brahmachari convention. And one of the first ones, I just asked them to write their questions on papers, anonymous, and put them in a basket so we could see what was in their minds. We had about 60 questions in the basket, from the
Wow.
brahmacharis. One of them was, what do I do? I'm still affected by black magic.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't directly approach it because that's more kind of, I don't think that's a very common one that full-time devotees ask, but in those type of countries, yes, it's very, very common. Very common. Some kind of, what we say, curse or blessings in the modes of nature, some karmic thing. And we've come across, and as you must have done in Ghana or in Kenya, Uganda, all these places. But in Malaysia also, so many young people, devotees, people in the congregation who are convinced that they're like, in that. But our answer, what can we say? We're not some exorcists of that kind. We're not, Sri Damodar Goswami was kind of an exorcist too, but in one sense, for our exorcism, we just take shout of the holy name. And that's my experience, my personal experience in dealing with these things and dealing with, this, whatever you want to call it, this type of,
it'd be wonderful to have you up in Ghana. It would be so good. It would be so nice, you know.
yeah,
We have the South we have
I'd
the
love
South
to
African
go.
sannyasi candidate. He'll be here in a couple of hours. It'll be so nice to have you up here.
Well, yeah, I'd love to come down, and especially I had no idea. I mean, we're just meeting maybe for the first time. I don't know if you've ever looked at each other before. I don't know.
Actually, you and I met in the Montreal temple a few years ago when you were a brahmachari.
Okay, that's where it was. Man, that was quite a few years ago, Keshav. That was like 20,
Yes,
15, 15
whatever,
years ago.
whatever it
Rath
was, and
Yatra time. Rath
yeah,
Yatra.
I think so, something like that. And then I saw
Right.
you in Mayapur or something, and I said, "Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu," and then I realized, "Oh, you're a sannyasi." I offered you my obeisances, and then you told me how you were in Uganda or something, and you were in jail for a little while, or you
Oh
were the
wow,
first
yeah.
devotee in
That's
Uganda.
a
I remember
that's
all
an
that.
experience and a half. I should tell that on one of these. If you ever ask me to come on this, African show again, I should tell that my stories from Uganda one day.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kenya, Uganda.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
we were there. I had a 2-year residence permit for Uganda. You know, I was there,
Oh yeah.
and
Because I was there
yeah,
in 1980. I was there just a few weeks after Idi Amin was booted out by the Tanzanian army.
that's right. Okay, was Vidura there at that time? Most likely, yeah.
No, no, nobody was there.
Oh,
I was
wow.
the first.
Okay,
I actually Jalakar from the American devotee, but he was in England. He visited there to make members one time, but only to
okay.
visit rich Indian people. He didn't do anything else. Otherwise, I was the first one to go into the field there.
Wow. Yeah, I remember you were saying something like that.
I didn't last long in the field.
It's pretty difficult.
I almost ended up in the ground.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy. It's a
Wow.
wild place.
Yeah.
But Maharaj,
Thank you
please,
so much.
please consider coming to Ghana, Maharaj. Please, we'd love to have you here. We really would.
Hare Krishna.
Anyway, enough for me. Enough for me.
Haribol, thank you, Keshav.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Okay.
Keep it up. Just
Thank-
chant Hare Krishna and carry on. You know, these things will
Thank you,
come
Maharaj.
in all the unusual kirtan styles and the everything
Yeah.
and everything. Is
Yes.
you know, just try to connect the culture of the people with Krishna. We can't expect to you can't connect if you just put the culture. We have to take the culture into account,
That's right.
It
Yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
part to play, and just try to Krishnaize everything.
Yeah.
That's
Old habits
probably
die
that's
hard.
why he was successful in America to a large degree. I mean, not to the extreme, but I mean, accepting, the situation there and adopting things like Brahminical initiation, sannyas, ladies living
Right.
in the ashram, and so on.
Mm.
Not so extreme, but still he accepted all these things, tolerated so much. As we all know, we just heard about it, when he was staying with Sally and Gopal
Oh, yeah.
and staying with Carl Jurgens and so on, how he, they had meat in the fridge and Prabhupada said, think nothing of it, they're smoking and cats all
Cat
over
food.
him, all
Yeah.
sorts of things,
Yeah, yeah.
That's America, I mean, if you're gonna, don't go there if you're gonna, it's like you go to these music fests, these rock concerts. Sometimes the boys were appalled, there's like people almost undressed and high
Yeah, I
on
know.
drugs. Yeah, well, my point is, if you don't, if you're so disturbed by it, don't go.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Don't go on people's cases. When sannyasis and brahmacharis go there, what are you supposed to do? Tell the people, don't touch me? Keep away. Don't go there if that's what your mindset is. You're going there to sacrifice. You're sacrificing. It's a great sacrifice. If Nityananda had said the same thing, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
He wouldn't have touched Jagai and Madai, wouldn't have gone near the guys. If you're that, weak or that whatever mindset we've got, you just don't go there. Okay.
So right.
If you're going to go there, you have to expect, you're not going to, you can't go there and expect them to be cultured. We're going there not to associate with them, but to give Krishna consciousness to them. Dancing around, you can't like push the girl away if she suddenly grabs you or something. What's the use of going otherwise, Get away, you're a woman. They'll kick you out on the spot,
That's all right. Yeah, yeah.
Use a bit of a brain substance.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Maharaj.
Just don't go.
Nice,
Hare
mature
Krishna.
perspective. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Maharaj. Thank you,
Hare
Sadev, bro. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Keshav.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj. And thank you so much, Keshava Prabhu.
Yeah.
Bringing back some nice old memories to Maharaj.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hope
One day,
he's back
if you
again
want, I'll
very
tell
soon.
you my Ugandan stores if I haven't already done it. I don't know.
Yes. We would like to hear those next time we
Not
are
today,
fortunate
not
to have
today.
you.
I've got to go pretty soon, Saturday, because I'm going to see a godbrother who's on his last days. And it's about an hour and a half drive, and I've got a program in the evening. So we got to drive. He's down near Philadelphia somewhere, so we got to drive down there.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll be driving back up here for a program. So I can't stay too long today, I'm afraid.
Okay. Can you take one question though?
One more.
Okay. Does anyone else have something to ask before Maharaj leaves? Well, Maharaj, then I will ask this question since no one.
Yeah, you always do that, you rascal.
My question
Hey, you need a dentist?
I do. I do, yes, Maharaj.
I just got my teeth fixed.
Yes. Well, of course, it's natural, though. It's natural. Yes.
You're transcendental. You don't need anything dental. You're transcendental.
Oh, no, Maharaj, I do. Did I hear someone wanting to ask a question? Hare Krishna. Oh, is that Haribo coming from your end, Maharaj?
No. Yeah, but it's just someone laughing.
Oh, okay, Hare Krishna. Well, Maharaj, thank you so much. You gave lots of references about sacrifices, which eventually will lead to happiness living in this material world. My question is, happiness is relative and subjective. So when the scriptures talk about happiness, what do they actually mean? Because
Boy, you're
someone
very
being
intellectual.
someone being in the cinema theater with his or her boyfriend, girlfriend, they are happy. Someone being in the beach and having fun, they are happy. But there are so much different types of, excuse me, say, happiness that devotees voluntarily choose to shun. So what do the scriptures actually mean when they talk about happiness? And how does happiness, true happiness, actually become a reality when the same scriptures tell us that this material world is filled with three kinds of miseries?
We get the point.
So if there are such miseries, then how do we actually have happiness?
Yeah. Well, there you go. This always reminds me of being in Surfers Paradise in Australia. I don't know if you've heard of Surfers Paradise in Australia or not. It's a famous holiday resort on the coast of Queensland, and the weather's great, the surf is great, the beach is great. You know, materially speaking, for those who like that sort of thing, is a great place, I guess. Casinos are there, lots of bars, lots of restaurants, lots of, nice young girls are there and boys and so on. It's a meeting place for sense enjoyers. And, when we go out there, I've been there, I don't go there much now, but I used to go there quite a lot, but I still go there. Not for the casinos or the beaches, but to try to preach a little bit. And the people are there obviously to try to enjoy. And you go up to this young guy, he's suntanned, he got a surfboard in one hand and a beautiful girl in the other hand. You say, "Excuse me, please take this book. This material world is a place of suffering. And this will make you happy." He looks at like you're an idiot, because they, as you quite rightly said, they're thinking this is real fun. This is real enjoyment. So what is the relative and absolute position here? What does Krishna mean when he says by the performance of yoga? Now, their happiness, which they're experiencing there and then, is obviously, we know it's temporary, that we know. It may even be very temporary. The guru will leave him. So a shark might capture him in the ocean when he goes surfing. There may be no waves. The weather suddenly turns dreadful. He gets drunk and loses his money. He loses all his money in the casino. He gets sick on the, eating too much or whatever it is. And then he's got to go away anyway and back to work again. So we know the sacrifice, the bhogatyaga, this material, what is there. I don't think anyone can deny that. It's not all happiness. It's bhogatyaga. So what is this absolute happiness that comes from yoga? Well, the first thing I'd say is that the yoga has to be performed correctly. Otherwise, you can't expect such an extreme resort of complete happiness. Within the material world, nothing really exists in an absolute sense as a complete happiness. But as a path towards that, the yogas that people perform authorizedly, properly, may lead to that involvement. It comes to first happiness in the mode of goodness, which is not something which comes and goes rapidly like the normal happiness, which is either mostly impassioned, you could say, and the ones you referred to, especially happiness of going to a cinema or nice place or whatever it may be, or having a nice girlfriend or boyfriend. It's passion, happiness in the mode of passion, which we know from Gita as a beginning. In the beginning, it's very nice, but then it turns sour when you lose it. And the mode of ignorance is always miserable, although someone in the mode of ignorance thinks that, being drunk and lying on the street with a bottle of wine is very nice. But that's just the way they see it, just like an animal thinks, living in a hole somewhere is very nice. But all of these various types of happiness have one element which is devoid besides the degree, but the actual content of these types of happiness, aside from the personal factor, which is relationship, the fact that all kinds of happiness are wrought with fear, no matter what they are, even the demigods there, always fear is lurking in the background because everything is temporary in this Brahma Bhupana Lokapona Vatanojana. Everything in this material world, is a place of suffering because it has a beginning and an end. And devotee don't take pleasure in it. They don't take pleasure in these activities because everything has a beginning and an end. They know that this so-called happiness is going to lead to sadness, to sorrow. What to speak of the karma, even in this lifetime, you'll experience that over and over and over again. Whereas the happiness of devotion service is not depending on karma. It's not depending on the temporary factors of this material world. And as long as we depend on anything external, there'll be an element of fear. That external may be a case of wanting self-respect. It may be wanting recognition. It may be wanting results. It may be just wanting sense enjoyment. Whatever it is, or possession of all properties, etc., will not lead to peace. The only peace is yogata. What's that verse go? Uktaram yagatapsam sarvalokam surdam sarvabhutanam gyatvanam shintam vichiti. Is when we recognize the purpose of everything we do is for the pleasure of Krishna. That's where real happiness. We can't, without peace, you cannot have happiness. It's not possible. Krishna says that himself. So this peace, when we're no longer disturbed by this matasparshas, kunte, shitosha, sukha, we're no longer disturbed by these sense objects and the pleasures obtained by contacting the sense objects, etc. Well, at least we tolerate them, so we're no longer be disturbed. Otherwise, there's no question of happiness. There's no question of freedom from fear, from stress and anxiety, and so on and so forth. Whereas real happiness, which comes from the proper execution of yajna, does not depend upon any of these external factors being in place or not being in place. It's a connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And seeing happiness and distress of this world, in a sense, are just the same for devotees. They're not the same for everyone, of course, but for a devotee, they're the same. It's just another facet of material existence. They come and they go, just like the winter and summer. So he's not fazed by them, undisturbed, because the devotee is connected to Krishna. Real sacrifice, real yajna, sarvadhamam pratyek. Give up all these other endeavors and just surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reaction. You have no need to fear. There's no fear. One is fearless. There's nothing to be afraid of. Death, war, disease, defamation, nothing. One is internally steady, satisfied within. So that's the idea, not the idea, but that's the stage, which at least from our perspective, obviously there are higher stages, but from our perspective, this is a clear distinction. We're not out to get quick happiness or relative happiness. We're really out to please Krishna. That's our point. When the motive is purely to please Krishna, then in all circumstances, as I mentioned earlier in the Dunda Maharaj, for instance, when he was just in lockup just now, how he was, lamenting that he couldn't be with the other devotees, but at the same time relishing the opportunity Krishna had given him there to remember Haridas Thakur, to chant the holy names. This goes on everywhere. I mean, one of the most blissful times, I must say, was when I was almost put underground in Uganda, because suddenly, you're chanting Hare Krishna and there's nothing else. There's no other shelter. There is no other shelter. And when we come to that point, then, as long as we're looking for shelter elsewhere, of course, there's some relativity mixed in there. When we get that experience, there is absolutely no other shelter. One completely freedom. One of the things that people really are looking for is absolute freedom. So a devotee is absolutely free when we come to that point. where we're no longer dependent on any circumstances for a so-called satisfaction, external circumstances. Yep, that's about it for now. I better move along, Sahadev.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
We're all
Maharaj.
sitting on the staircase here, wondering when I'm going to be ready to go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you all very much, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Well, glorious service wherever you are, whether you're in America, whether you're in England, whether you're in Ghana, whether you're in... Where else are we from here? Let me go through here. There's Portugal. I don't know where iPhone is. Where's iPhone?
US.
Is that which country's iPhone?
It's in the US.
Is that a name of a town? iPhone. Oh, a car is the name of a car. He's in a car or a lorry or a bus or something. I don't know what you're in a bus.
It's called Govinda.
Ah, good. America. And then another devotee, I think he's also on the wheels. So no, maybe not. Hamsaduta, where are you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in New Vrindavan.
New Vrindavan?
Yes, please. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please can you accept my
Fantastic.
spiritual obeisances?
Wonderful.
All glory to
Keisha's
Sri
in Ghana. Where's Narayani? It's a beautiful temple. I can't make it out clearly. Where's Narayani, Devi?
Narayani Devi is in Chicago.
Chicago?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where's Takumurari? There he is. He's in the Jharkhand forest. No, he's not. He's in Jagannath Puri.
I'm in Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Jagannath Puri. He's with Haridas Thakur in Jagannath Puri.
Krishna, I'm in Jamaica.
Where are you?
I'm in Jamaica.
Jamaica. Haribo.
Wow.
Yeah, good. Where's Gull? Gull
is in UK.
UK.
Yes.
Rupanuga's in UK. I guess there's many Rupanugas. I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's a different one. Where's Rupanuga?
Rupanuga, you may unmute.
Where
We're
is
not
he?
to hear your voice.
Rupanuga, where are you? He doesn't know. He's still trying to work it out. Loka Devi, where are you?
Loka is in the US too.
Also US.
Yeah, Loka is Sahadev's wife.
Oh, she's right there with you. Okay. Cavatini. Where is Cavatini? I don't think they're very technologically know how to do these things. She doesn't know how to say it. I don't know. I probably have her on my website, on my database, but a different name. Sati Devi, where are you? Huh?
I'm in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Haribo. And where is Cuba?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'm in Czech Republic still.
Oh, you're in Czech. Good. And Arundhati, I guess, is in London. There's Radha Londonishwar. She's in London for sure.
Hare Krishna, yes, I'm in London.
Haribo Arundhati.
Hare
Sriman
Krishna.
Vara, Acharya, where are you?
Shivara Acharya is in Togo, West Africa.
Togo.
Yes, Maharaj.
Togo. We have to go. We have to go. To go. Yasoda Devi.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. I'm Gideon Agri, US.
Nagari. Haribo. Jai. Haribo. Gita Nagari. Nitai Charan is in Portugal, and I'm here at the moment, and we'll be leaving in a few days to the UK, and then on to other countries in Europe, back to France after a while. So thank you all very much for being with us today, and wish everyone all the very best. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj.
Prabhupada.
Maharaj, good. Please, before you leave, one quick announcement. No, even before the announcement, we just want to express our appreciation and thankfulness to Lord Shri Krishna, because Lord Krishna is Master Mischief. And sometimes he looks on his dedicated servants to go through so much troubles before he intervenes. So we're very grateful that he led you out of the hands of these Ugandan people who were trying to harass you. And also,
Tanzanian.
His Holiness Indrajumna Maharaj is very pleasant to hear that he's been freed. So we thank Krishna for that. And this coming Friday, we're going to have a special celebration to honor Her Grace, Mother Ladini Devi,
Ladini.
who
In
lost her
Nigeria.
life in West Africa, specifically Liberia, some 3 decades ago. And we have quite a number of wonderful devotees lined up to come and share the glories of grace. So we encourage devotees to mark their calendars and try to make time to be here.
Wonderful.
And we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all with one voice, one heart, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to His Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj for sharing his love, wisdom, and time with us today. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Hare Hare,
Kalpa, Tarupascha, Kripa Sindhu Devacha, Putitanam, Bhagavato, Vishnu.
Bhagavato Namo Namaha.
Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. All praise to Holiness Janananda Swami Maharaj ki jai. All praise to Vaishnava devotees ki jai.
Right.
All praise to Krishna